Welcome back to another episode of Full Zor. And this episode is going to be very, very interesting because we are moving away from building stuff for a CPU to actually kind of making the architecture of it itself. And you'll see as I explain, we're heavily inspired by the 8080 microprocessor by Intel from 1974. And that will be kind of our blueprints, you can say, for our CPU that we will be designing. So I'm going to explain kind of how this architecture is all going to come together. We're going to talk about the control unit a little, but we're not actually going to build it in this episode. We're going to build it in next week's episode, which I know might be sad for some of y'all out there. But this one is very educational, packed with a lot of information about this, and I think y'all are going to really enjoy this one. But let's roll the intro, then we're going to hop into the simulation. So we are back in the simulation. This is going to be a very, very exciting episode, actually, because we are going into our actual CPU now. And you might be looking at this and be like, damn, did you do some work off the camera? And I did. I'm not going to lie, I did. So, but I think this is going to be better to teach because instead of watching me wire all of this in like 4x speed, I kind of pre-wired it so I can kind of now explain really how all of this works. Move the camera a little bit down too real quick. Okay, so what is this? So the CPU that we will be modeling after is the 8080 by Intel from 1974, I believe. And let me explain why I picked the CPU first, and then I'm going to explain how this architecture makes sense. But notice how some of the pins are not wired because we do not have the control unit. The control unit will be right here in the middle, but this control unit that we will make, which we'll probably start next episode, maybe a little bit this one, is going to be very complicated. It's not just going to be a simple decoder to where it takes in an 8-bit input and decodes it to tell what modules to turn on. It will be almost the conductor of this orchestra right here. And that's a good analogy to put it. And it's lots of different things it will need to be able to do. But let's go to the computer architecture first. So 8080. So there was two CPUs before that, and the 8080 is the second 8-bit CPU made by Intel, designed by Intel. So before the 8080, there was the 4004 and the 8008. I don't know if I'm saying that right. It might have a different name, but whatever, it's the same thing. So the 4004 was a 4-bit microprocessor. It was request to be designed in 1969, and it was made in 1971, November 15th. So that is the birthday of the microprocessor, because the 4004 was the first microprocessor to ever be constructed officially. But it was a 4-bit microprocessor, and I really didn't research too much about it because I want this to be an 8-bit machine, just so we have that little bit more power in our numbers. But the 404 was a 4-bit microprocessor. And another thing about CPUs that I didn't really understand or realize, I guess, till now, is that the opcode and the operand are different byte values because you can share combined registers. So, for example, like the 404 is a 4-bit CPU, so all the numbers are between 0 and 15. But the addresses that it used could be an 8-bit number if it combines two 4-bit registers together to give it a lot more address space to store these numbers in. And I didn't realize I could do that, so I thought they had to be kind of the same. So that makes the 404 like kind of useful actually because it has a good bit of storage for some basic CPU problems. And now let's go to the 808, and that one is huge upgrade. We moved from 4-bit architecture to 8-bit. So there's only one CPU by Intel that was actually 4-bit. Everything else is 8-bit or above. And the 808 was very weird in its design. So I looked into this a little bit because originally that was the CPU that we would be building. But the inputs that it uses are really weird because CPU pins for the 8008 were kind of expensive. So Intel really tried to like over engineer this in order to make the pins um, use the least amount of pins as possible, which just caused like kind of some confusion in how it works or whatever. It wasn't really too elegant in design, but it still worked. And then after that one came the 8080, which I guess pin costs went a little more down because now we have something that makes sense. We have actually an address output and a data output. And on the 808, it was all just one output pin. So like you had data input, data out, and address out on one 8-bit data like pins. So that was sounds like a timing nightmare. That's what it sounds like. Okay, so thank God they fixed it, and now we have this. And I didn't want to go any further than this because then the computer architecture kind of gets a little more complicated, and I don't know how well the simulation is going to run with all of the processes I want it to run. So we're just going to stick with this one and hope for the best. Um, Other companies were making it too, like other CPUs. I can't remember the name. I think it's like 6542, something like that. That was apparently a very um, efficient 8-bit CPU that used 3500 transistors, but it was super efficient, and that would also be hard to make in the simulation because of its efficiency, because it just runs so well, and it's really not like it does A first, B first, and C. It kind of like does this weird multitasking thing. So that would not be a good idea. So that's why we're going to make the 8080 in our simulation, and this will not be an exact replica, but it will be heavily inspired by it. So now let's take a look at kind of what I have right here. So let's look at our pins first, okay? And these pins aren't not exactly the same pins that the 8080 has, but I kind of just took what I think we needed, and if we don't need these pins, we can always refine it in a future video. So of course we have our data input, which is 8 bits. We need a data input for our CPU. And then we have our input data. So I'm gonna add like this little like keyboard type of input thing to our CPU, and this is gonna let us, when this is on, it's gonna let us know that actually, excuse me, that was the wrong button. So when this is on, it lets the CPU know that it's receiving data and not trying to output data. Because if you notice, the data input and the data output are on the same bus. So we need to be able to tell whether it's receiving data or whether it's outputting data, and that's what this does. The interrupt one was the kind of the thing I was hinting at. So let's say the CPU is running this math operation, and then I hit a key on my keyboard. So what we want the CPU to do is kind of stop or halt this math operation, address this key input, and then return back to its math operation. And that's what the interrupt pin is going to mean. So if the interrupt pin is high, it's essentially going to stop what it's doing, receive the new data that it's just been given, process that, and then return to its old data. So this pin will be also kind of a nightmare to code or a nightmare to configure because I really don't know how to do that right now. So now let's look at our outputs. So our outputs, I kind of just made them up a little bit just because what I think might be easier for me to make. So again, we have the interrupt. So when the interrupt is high, the CPU is going to finish solving its current process, and then it's going to receive the data. And once it receives the data, it's going to output this high to let the other, I guess, components of our computer know that, hey, we received the data successfully. You don't need to yell at me anymore. And so that's why we got this. Now we have these inputs, which is kind of my own. So I have the RAM input on. If this is high, I want to output my data to the RAM. If the inputs are high, I want to output my data to the inputs. If the SSD is high, and then I want to output my, I said inputs, output my outputs to the SSD. If the GPU is high, I want to output the data out to the GPU. And essentially, that's kind of what it is. We probably won't need all of this because the inputs, will they need data? Probably not. The SSD, will it need data? Probably not, since we can't really write to our SSD. It's read-only memory. So reality, we could probably just delete these, honestly. And in reality too, we could probably just use RAM and have the GPU read from RAM too, but that's going to slow us down a little bit and make it a little more complicated. So we're not going to do that because the RAM we have is only an 8-bit address RAM. On the 8080, it's a 16 address. They combine registers together and make a 16 address, which is a lot of RAM. But we do not have that because we are in a simulation, and I don't want to put 64,000 bytes of RAM. So we're just going to go with 8 bits and hope and pray that it's enough for a little game or a little simulation to run on our simulation. We're going to run a simulation on our simulation, which is kind of funny. So that is it. Now let's look at this. So I'm going to put up a map again of the 8080, and as you can see, it's on my other monitor, so I'm going to look at this as I explain. I might be looking at the camera, but essentially we have this 6-bit array of registers, and they're labeled with letters, but my letters are a little bit different than their lettering. It also uses an accumulator CPU architecture, as you can see right here. So we have that, which all goes to our ALU. We have one internal data bus, which is exactly what this is, our internal data bus. We have our program counter, which then outputs to our address output. And the address output is only an output. It's an output or an input, which is kind of what we have right here. We have our control unit, which will be in the middle, which will then orchestrate essentially everything that's going on, which is what they have. They call it timing and controls, which, as you can see, the black arrows literally point to everything in the CPU because that's what it has to do. We had these temporary registers in here. As you can see, temp reg. I didn't put that. I didn't think we needed that. That sounds like it might get overcomplicated because there's also, if you look at my stack CPU architecture, I really don't like that one. It's kind of confusing to me how it works, and it's just a little ugly about how I made it. So I try to stay away from our stack pointer, and so that's why I didn't use the temp register, so we don't like kind of keep track of that. We'll see if we really need it in the future. I don't think we will. We have our instruction register right here, and as you can see on the diagram, the instruction register feeds into our little decoder, which will then feed into our control unit, but that's going to be all one big unit for us when we make it. So this is essentially what it is. This is exciting though, because this is like, it's like coming to life right now and we can see it. We already have the RAM made, which is cool. We don't have our inputs output made, which will be in another episode. We had the SSD is made because it's a little thing kind of already in the simulation. And we don't have the GPU made, which will be also another little nightmare because it's all kind of a CPU in its own. But we'll see. We'll see how it works. But that's going to be our game plan for the future videos, is going to be the I/O and the GPU after we do the control unit. This is essentially all I want to talk about in this video right here. Might be, I think this video is pretty exciting, but it might not be exciting for y'all since we really didn't build anything. It's kind of just me explaining some stuff. Kind of a hard week in school too for me, so really couldn't like focus a lot on the control unit, but it will be coming soon, and this will be built soon. And I've also been really playing around with those PCBs a lot, so because I'm very excited about that. But that's gonna be also a future video too. But anyway, I'm gonna sell out for a little bit. If you want to look at some of the stuff I have in the description below, please check it out. We have a little Discord. If you want to ask some questions about your like circuits or whatever, we have a few active people in there who will be more than happy to help you, myself included. And that's it. Leave a comment if you have anything advice you want to give me about making the CPU, because this is by far the most complex thing we have made on this channel, by 100% by far. So, I mean, the actual 8080 use 6,500 transistors, and I can't imagine that. The transistor CPU I made used 350, so I mean, lots of stuff happening. But thank you so much for watching. Please come back next week.